Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer comment that actually talks about narcissist ghosting and how this is so hurtful. And then the cause that creates an impact of suffering and sort of confusion as a result. And this is a very deliberate way of treating or mistreating others in a narcissist relationship. So we're going to zoom in and focus in on that. So narcissist ghosting is when, the narcissist, they will always run the show. Like a viewer comment so aptly stated, they're on a power trip. I think that is such a great synopsis of that. And I haven't heard that term used for decades. That might have been a big sort of comment in the 90s, or, they're on a power trip, or they're giving you a guilt trip. So that's a great explanation of ghosting. It is a power trip. It's a way, and this also sort of harkens and connects to a actual interview with Joe Rogan that I just watched. And unfortunately, I don't have the clip, but it was on one of the Joe Rogan clips, and he talks about how these people who are sort of on this beeline, this tirade, that they'll always overcome others by talking and controlling the relationship through always talking, always trying to get ahead of the other. So you can't get a word in edgewise. They will edge you out. This is like being ghosted in plain sight. So a lot of the literature on narcissist ghosting just talks about how, and a lot of our viewers have experienced this, where they'll be in a relationship, you might even be for dinner, you might be at a movie, you might be at a concert, and all of a sudden they just leave. They just excuse themselves with no explanation, no communication. If you ask them what happened, where they are, you express kindness, you express concern, you express patience. They will then point the finger at you and then telling you, what are you talking about, la, and then they're moving on. They will not answer your question. This is like being ghosted or sort of being disappeared upon in plain sight. So you've got sort of different levels of this. Ghosting, which literally means they just leave. You can go to a party with them, and then all of a sudden they're no longer there. They're not your partner. They're not your date, and you're cast to some other sort of experience that you are sort of uncomfortable with, or it feels very awkward. And they will leave people in this awkward state as a way of sort of culminating that power trip. If they can always edge out, ego stands for edging God out. We're not here all about getting religious. We're talking about, your source, your feelings. You can call it physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological, whatever it is. It is a truth. It's a reality. It's your inner flame, your inner passion, that which wants to be listened to and validated. As a human being, you do need to have validation. And so this narcissist ghosting is really very painful, meaning they will just disappear and not be held accountable. In other words, they will hurt others and mistreat, but they will never fulfill the circle. The circle never closes. They take you out of the game in this way, as if the relationship is a game. Well, it is to a narcissist. There's always a winner and a loser, with really the whole sort of trajectory of the relationship. And of course, it's all about them winning, whatever it is. Winning a match, winning a show, winning a conversation, winning something materialistic, winning a fight that they have made up, just winning. They have an insatiable need for this power and control. So when they're on that power trip, there is no recourse to any sort of pragmatic, practical, realistic communication. They really do need, and they have a pathological sense of being ultra special. So they are so special that they don't need to be held accountable for their behaviors. That is their story. That is their fairy tale. That is their story. That is really the narrative that they are running their life with. So if you understand a narcissist, they have a story going on and on and on, meaning they will never change this, tame this, alter it if it doesn't keep them on that power trip where it keeps them one leg up, one comment up, one, elbow, roll the eyes, point the finger at somebody else. They will always try to disempower, deregulate sort of the emotions of others because they can't manage themselves. They can't really regulate their own emotions. They will project this onto others. So and so this, that, whether it's a person, a place, a thing, a philosophy, an abstract, a whatever it is, there's always sort of the outcome with them being sort of the one. I mean, there is no room for other people with a narcissist relationship. This is just what they do. And it's very real. And it confuses a lot of people to be ghosted. So, ghosted can be in plain sight, meaning they will not validate any sort of strength, experience, or validity, whatever it is within you, no matter how great or small. That is part of the power trip, that they will not be inclusive, whether it's communication, emails, texts. So when we talk about the ghosting, especially for a lot of people, they have more than laid out their neck for others. They have more than laid out the jacket for others. They have more than tried to meet people in the middle. They have over-obligated in order to resolve this, what becomes a very puzzling and confusing situation when you are ghosted, where you're just sort of made invisible. They'll just sort of walk right by you, just sort of not give you the time of day. If you're in an existing relationship, ignore you in plain sight, treat you as if you're in the way, you're an obstacle, They'll sort of eclipse you, cut you out. So you have to realize that this creates a real problem for a lot of people because they stay ruminating and sort of trying to sort things out from the past, particularly wondering why things went awry. And most people who are a victim of this always, especially children, will assign the blame to themselves. If there's something wrong, they'll always sort of circle it back to themselves. What did I do wrong? They're trying to take more blame and responsibility where it's not your place. But in the narcissist relationship, they will often want just that one-way giving. So catering to them, validating them, laughing for them, agreeing for them. Meanwhile, if you give up everything that is related to your own experience, then you'll have a swimming relationship with them. If you don't have any sort of other experience, if you just put up and shut up, you might then be able to maintain as some sort of supply. But for a lot of people, they don't like the awkwardness of abuse. They get sick and tired of it day in and day out until they hit a rock bottom when the pain is great enough. And they go, you know what? This really does have to be sorted out. So one of these is to understand that they try to, when this happens, your future and your vision for yourself is sort of removed for you. It's sort of stolen, heisted, removed. The ball is no longer in play. So a lot of people feel that they're taken out of the game, that they are shut down, that they don't have any because they're not validated, which is a normal, natural human need. It's not a luxury for someone to go, yeah, let me listen to you. I will consider this, and not just consider only one aspect of the story, but all aspects of the story. So a narcissist will try to sort of just draw together in their power trip and their need to control sort of all things that relate to a specific outcome, with discounting or not taking into account or consideration other aspects, other experiences, other reality, things that have happened. They will not give credit to that experience, where a lot of people then are ruminating on it, really trying to then get back their truth, their personal power, and saying, but wait, this happened. So they're really sort of emerging from a denial state, which can be very, very awkward and cause people to really become very apathetic, unproductive, and unhappy for certain big, large swaths of time, events, experiences, sort of losing your own vision, if you will. Because if you're always looking back, it's very difficult to simultaneously look back and look forward. So you're like asking the impossible of yourself when you're being ghosted. Namely, there's a manipulative outcome to this, sort of a lack of communication, if you will. They can sort of always keep this over you, kind of like, remember those selfie sticks? I don't know if anybody uses those anymore. They came out maybe 5 years ago, and you're just sort of holding they hold just sort of this, if you were to see like an 8-year-old play, and you've got some kids, and you've got a kid with like a long stick, and just like, for example, like this is that back scratcher we talk about in, so if you were like in a play and you were to put like a big dark cloud on the end of this, and just sort of, follow that person around with this dark cloud, and then making it darker, making it more stormy, raining different things. Maybe they are shielding themselves from the rain, then you try the sleet. In other words, it gets worse with time. Lightning, hail, winds, whatever it is to throw you off balance, to take you out of the game, is part of the ghosting. So you have to realize that if you have this hanging over you, this does not need to be your life. That's like the law of the lid. You're not that pushed down or oppressed if you allow it to be. A lot of people, though, who are with empathy, so they want, to still have the relationship. They feel like, if I could change, if I could, so they continue in this abusive pattern. And then the pattern deepens. The pattern becomes more severe, more rigid, less open to change. It might be silenced if the narcissist wants something from you. If they want context, information, ABC or XYZ, they will try to keep that open. Remember, the narcissist, they are all about the supply and what can you do for me and my goals. Period. End of story. So if they have a goal for money, if they have a goal for a car, if they have the goal for you to take care of their kids, you to take care of whatever. So like, a lot of viewers have found themselves here ghosted. So in other words, they might have been looking for a place to live. They might have wanted you to pay their kids' tuition, pay their other kids' rent, pay their kids whatever. There's all these ulterior motives, and then people then give, and then it just amplifies. The ghosting continues, and then the cycle continues. It's the cycle really of abuse. Then the people who are victimized, who are hurt, are trying to then, get themselves out of this hurt. And so they resort to the familiar, meaning, well, if I only go back and do this again, then I won't be hurt, or I'll resolve. So people end up paying double for the narcissist as well as themselves. In other words, and it never gets resolved. It's an equation where the bottom line just gets worse. And so you can acknowledge the red flags of being ghosted. And so meaning that, you will have a specific presence. This will not be validated. It will not be acknowledged. It will not have any strength, any positivity. You are as well as null and void. Especially when a narcissist wants to ghost you as part of a triangulation or sort of a smear campaign, where they really try to assail the reputation of others, throwing you under the bus. It's the old jab, jab in the corner, whisper, whisper, and then fake as if. So this is their tactic. And then usually the flying monkeys go, oh, wow, well, I definitely want to be on the right side of this. I'm going to go, with the troublemaker. I'm going to go with this person who seems to be extolling all these virtues, and that this other person is bad, chopped liver, whatever. They're they will do this through whispering things in other people's ear. This happens in very sad. I've talked to viewers who have been in relationships they've been married for 40 years, 42 years, 48 years, and they've raised their family, and then they're being ghosted. There's, someone in the family who is trying to create a divide. So this is just so textbook. Creating the posse, creating the divide, us versus them. It's all part of their story that they create as a manipulative tool. So it's really like a fairy tale. It oftentimes has nothing to do with reality, but they will stand by it. This, and you will just have to, and then the rules will change, the laws will change, and you really cannot win because you're taken out of a game that you don't know the terms, the rules, the conditions, the points, the reward, the penalties. How can you continue? So you have to look and realize that you have another playfulness that really has to come back to the innocence of being a human being. So you might have to really understand the cause has created this effect of ghosting and how it has impacted you. Namely, people will have a narrative running through their mind. This always happens to me. Here we go again. And then they've got this just sort of, the story is continuing. So when that happens, you have to look at what is going on with the story. What happens again and again? Look at some common denominators. Look at what happened. Are you being used? Are you being made to be a utilitarian? Are you being made to be a tool? Are you there just to do whatever, and then you're not receiving? You're not even just the basics of respect is an acknowledging your presence without being fearful, paranoid, suspicious. These are all part of the ghosting to me. They're trying to remove you in plain sight. This is very difficult. And a lot of people don't know this tactic of a narcissist. So I don't want to say they don't discover it until it's too late, but oftentimes they will discover it years, if not decades later. It'll finally make sense. Someone will say, they withdrew here. They weren't here then. I was here at this party, and then they just did that. So there's all sorts of experience where you might find yourself, you might feel that the rug is pulled out from underneath you. You don't have anything to stand on. This is really a testimony. And like a viewer so aptly said, they are always trying to leave you on shaky ground. So knowing this to be the case, this is part of the ghosting. If they can make you unsettled, disrupted, angry, losing your cool, losing your marbles, freaking out, emotionally, crisis. This is how they take you out of your game. This is a real hazard. And to me, this is a great human tragedy. And even more tragic because I feel with proper support, so much human suffering is preventable. So this is why I've created the channel, is because I feel that there is so much that is not available for people. So if you talk, if you have a trouble, if you then talk about this with other people, usually they don't understand the full details. They can't quite get it. So you need to be able to have a forum, a place to sort of air it out and get validation and sort of compare notes, especially when it comes to these patterns. The pattern of the narcissist is not open to change. It is resistant to change. And this this aspect then puts all the other adjustment and change and sucking it up on the other party. So a lot of people then are taking undue burden, undue hurt, undue emotional work is part of this aftermath. So the ghosting often has so many deleterious or negative effects. So you really have to identify and own it. Meaning if you do not feel seen, heard, etc., etc., and so you have to own this. You're not making something up. You're not overreacting. You're not being too sensitive. Those are the statements of someone who is trying to excuse a reality. They're trying to excuse a truth. They're trying to get away or out of something. And then you are then usually end up holding onto the bag, so to speak, or what they say in the field is you are holding onto something that is not yours to hold onto, namely someone else's negativity. Holding on to someone else's negativity, their judgment, their opinion, their negative assessment of you, as part of their narcissist dynamic. If they can just, always, give negative, and then so always see the negative and reflect back the negative. That is known in psychology, really, which becomes negative validation. It's the cause of eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, negative validation, which means the negative of you is validated to the point where you're defining yourself by the I am not versus the I am. So this is very, very problematic. And then people who have gone through this ghosting, I would hearken to say that they are very uncomfortable or don't have, they experience, I would say, what's called an imposter syndrome, where they're not really able to feel that they own anything positive, about themselves. Because they haven't had it mirrored back. If you were, I've used this analogy for years. But if you were to walk into a funny house of mirrors, just like you might have seen in one of those restaurants, or I don't know where you've seen it, maybe a carnival or a haunted house, and it sort of distorts your perception, but you're able to see, oh, that's one of those funny mirrors. It's distorting it's distorting me, and you're able to know it. And then you walk over here, then you're very tall. You walk over here, you're fat and short, and then, but you have a realistic. They will mirror back to you an unrealistic, unsatisfactory, untoward, unbecoming part of yourself. This will then become a block. This will become a stagnation to your personal growth, meaning you'll start to go backwards. You'll start to crumble. You'll start to be degraded. You'll start to, lose faith, lose hope, lose vision. Do you see how one then might experience that they're imploding, that they're going nowhere fast, unhappy, this is too heavy. All these are the statements really of narcissist ghosting or not being validated. When you're in a relationship with these people, it is very difficult. It's like climbing a rock. You think that you have like two little fingers in it, and then the fingers aren't strong enough. And if you are not able to sort of continue that negative sense of self, you will not be able to maintain the relationship. Because a relationship with a narcissist, they need you to maintain a negative sense of self to buy into their manipulative agenda. That is not fair. That is not required. You do not need to buy into a negative sense of yourself. That is disempowering. And if you have made that mistake, it's okay to stop making that mistake. This is in the section of your book that I would call lessons learned. You need to write these things down as a tool. You really do need to write these things down. Do you really need to be on shaky ground? Do you need to feel fearful all the time? Do you need to feel unloved? What part of you is needing to hang on to this negative sense of self? If that has been designed in the past, then that will give you an answer of why it is difficult for you to move forward or have a vision that is encouraging, motivating to you, or inspiring for your future. because it's like it's like an anchor. In psychology, they'll say, you need to let go of what is not yours. So if what is not yours is all this negative assessment of yourself, whether it's about your hair is a rat's nest. Your skin is this, you're that, it's always this negative definition of self. So if you have way too many of these negativities that you've allowed in because of impaired boundaries, no boundaries, then you need to understand what the boundaries are. So it's like peaceful waters in, and then over here, and then that is out, is sort of like a contaminant. So it sort of it comes in like a contaminant of your identity. This is not how life is meant to be lived. And look at the reaction. So a narcissistic rage, meaning the reaction is not appropriate for the situation. In other words, you just, let's just say for an example, you came up to a red light and then the person freaks out, so you're at a stoplight. It doesn't warrant you freaking out, throwing a tantrum, hurling insults, whatever it is. Do you see? So you'll see this asymmetry or this out of balance. But the narcissist rage will sort of be as part of that ghosting and will inhibit you from your ability to look forward or feel that you have a future. And this is because of it, the interaction in the brain. If you are on the fight or flight, being ghosted, uncertainty, then it's very difficult to simultaneously resolve this from your past and then develop a future. It is your brain, unfortunately, cannot really sort of live in the fear and then have a joyful vision moving forward. So you have to understand what it robs you of, what it takes you of, this negativity, and know that that's part of the narcissist dynamic. If they can treat you like a puppet, which says this now, that later, so if you're always under their control, then they're going to be happy, but they will also say, you're stupid, you don't have a life. So it's a no can do. In other words, they will want you to be a specific way and then be unhappy for following their order. So it creates a null and void for other people as part of this ghosting. So a lot of people feel that they're unimportant, that they're irrelevant, that they're not meant to add up to anything. So then this sort of negative self-talk is just part of like an internal recording that you need to sort of get rid of. That is nothing more really than the aftermath of your own homeostasis trying to bring you into balance. Ghosting can really throw people off balance. So realize that realize what it is for what it is. It's a power trip. It's a guilt trip. It's a way for you to, take you off center and chase them, follow them, and abandon yourself. And then you begin working against yourself. So that is not a good way. Don't work against yourself. Be willing to have the audacity and the courage to see things for what they are, even though you might have wanted things, desired, needed things to be different, and they are not. Realize that the narcissist or a psychopath, for that matter, they will not change. They will not validate you. They will not listen. They will not take you to heart. They will not be sensitive to your plight. They lack empathy. They are not able. So you just have to have this acceptance of their shortcomings, despite their public persona that it appears that they are unlimited and have no shortcomings. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace lives within, peace lives without you. Peace can be cultivated in a culture of really sort of the real you. So really recognize and embrace that. I hope that is a positive experience for you today. Have a beautiful day.